Hi, I'm Ron, Ronald Goby, just so you know how to pronounce the surname. I know it's an unusual one. I live just north of Dublin in Ireland with my wife and my two daughters and our Shishan pup, Monty, who is very much part of the family, if not runs the household. I'm a big fan of rock music and heavy metal. Used to sing in a band. Some would say I could never really sing, but I definitely can't sing anymore. And I love reading. I obviously love writing. It's very, very much my passion. And this video is just a little introduction to Gods of Kiranis in particular, and the Kiranis series in general. So I hope you enjoy listening to me. So why do I write? I started writing when I was about 16, and I think by the time I was 18, I realized that it was what I wanted to do for a living. I finished my first novel in 96, so I was approaching 20, and I thought it was just amazing. Everything I've written since then sort of continues from that not amazing novel. And I've been evolving my work ever since. I think if I wasn't writing, that would be very difficult for me, or if I couldn't write. I know that when I don't write, I get very down, I get grumpy. My wife and daughters will attest to that. So I feel an urge to write almost all the time. It relaxes me, it's cathartic, it's who I am, and I believe it's what I'm here for in that sense. Gods of Kiranis is very much formative when it comes to this 7-part story that it belongs to. I sometimes don't like using the word series or saga because it implies that pieces will be added on. It's been planned for a long time. I know exactly how the final scene of the final book will play out, and even I'm pretty sure what the last words said will be. But Gods of Kiranis starts, I like to think, it gets you straight into the action. The cage, as you see here, it arrives around Earth in its component pieces, and no one knows why or where it's come from, etc. It has to be investigated, but the people find a countdown up in this device or the array at the top of the cage, and this is all in pieces as well. So everything is anticipating this activation, or something is going to happen, and they don't know what. While this is going on, there are other alien races involved, other planets. So it's a large scale, that's why space opera is sort of the term that's applied sometimes when you've got this big cast and there's a lot of players, a lot of overlapping and interacting storylines. I write the book from, it's split into parts with a couple of different perspectives. So the first part you'll find is on one planet and focusing on certain people, then you'll go to another planet, and even any sort of conversation or communication or connected plot lines you get to see from other perspectives, and you can see how things are playing out in parallel. So there are a number of interested parties across the different planets. When the cage arrives, it sort of obviously sparks a lot of interest. And on Earth there is Cassandra Messina, who, unlike her Homeric counterpart, she has an idea or knows what's going to happen, or a certain amount of what's going to happen. She has been warned, but she chooses not to warn everyone else. And she gets the people of Earth involved in an alliance with this alien race called the Javisk Society. They're quite duplicitous then, and they are also involved with another alien race on the worlds of Cieltor, and these people are called the Garan, and they have their own agenda, and someone from the Garan visits Earth as well. That's Karak, who is actually one of my favorite characters. I think I enjoy creating villains more than the good guys. But there are the Quaios Council, who are a major alien species, and we learn then that there is a connection between the Javis Society and the Quaios Council, as if they're almost like kindred species, going back a long time. But the major players, or the major organization on Earth, is called the Church of the New Elect, and I've played with some biblical and Christian and Judaic sort of theologies and traditions in their backgrounds, as if they've sort of usurped all this theology and come up with a sense of themselves as being the chosen people. And they consider themselves, or their leaders consider themselves, connected to this cage event. And so that's very, very much part and parcel of what's going on. It's really central to the story, and will continue to be central as things evolve throughout Kiranis. So while all this is going on out at the planet Kiranis, it is literally being reborn. It has been pulled apart physically and it's been reformed and redefined. The opening scenes, the prologue of Gods of Kiranis, is actually connected to what's going on, and you'll have to read that to understand what I mean. This is another central character called Cana has a dream about something that's going to happen to him, and it's very much connected to what is happening and will happen on Kiranis. As for the gods of Kiranis, I'm not going to reveal who or what they are. You'll have to read to figure it out. One of the main characters in throughout the whole series is introduced rather incidentally in Gods of Kiranis. His moniker, his nickname is the World Killer, and he becomes known to everyone in every species, and everyone looks out for him over time. And he's extremely dangerous, and the prophet Naveen is using him to bring his plan to fruition. So why did I write Kiranis? I think a lot of writers will tell you that their stories just need to be told and they have to get them out and so on. I think Kiranis is a combination of a number of stories that I wanted to tell over the years, and certainly since I started writing. Even though I was a science fiction fan, and as I said before, Star Trek, Star Wars, Dune, Battlestar Galactica, all those sorts of things. I started reading heroic fantasy. I started reading David Eddings. I think that David Eddings was probably the first sort of novels that I got into, apart from things that I had to read when I was in school. But reading for pleasure, I think David Eddings, and then David Gemmell, Raymond E. Feist, Terry Pratchett, Terry Brooks, etc. So fantasy really shaped my writing style early on, and I started writing fantasy novels. I abandoned the sci-fi initially, and then I spent a couple of years writing fantasy novels that I wanted to be these sort of epic scale, again with dragons and magic and big battles. I was very interested in that, and I loved envisaging that sort of world. But I always wanted to get back to the initial trilogy that I had planned. This first novel that I'd written way back in 1996, and so in the early 2000s, I think I decided, right, I'm going to merge these two trilogies that I had been working on. One was purely fantasy and one was purely science fiction, if either of those things are possible. But and that's why I'm very adamant that Kiranis is a science fantasy series, because it is a result of those merged trilogies. So I write it because there are themes that I really, really want to deal with. And I always feel that the more I reveal, especially this early on to readers, that the more I will give away. But there are themes about, let's just say at the moment, the meaning of life, and why are we here, and is there anything after it? And these things are are very dear to me and play on my mind a lot, and especially with my education in biblical and theological studies and thinking of all spiritual issues as well. A lot of that comes in, and there's a lot of allusion and a lot of themes that I play with as the story progresses. Always at the heart of it, though, is there's a sort of a little adolescence to the action sometimes, but they're very, I like to think, sophisticated themes and very deeply set themes playing throughout it. And so the central character who will be in every one of these novels is Naveen, the prophet, and he's very much a searching figure. He's looking for something. He's trying to make something happen, and the prophet's plan is something that everyone, for all the characters for centuries, are trying to figure out, trying to get to the bottom of it. They think they know, they don't know, they're led in different directions, and so on. And I really, really hope that I can contain the truth of what he is planning and what he is trying to make happen for as long as possible, because I really don't want people to anticipate that final book. So what comes next? Hard to say what comes next without giving away what happens in Gods of Kiranis. All I'll say is that there is a major, powerful alien race called the Quaios Council, that you will encounter in Gods of Kiranis, and their culture and who they are and what they do and what they want, etc., is very much at the heart of the second installment in the Kiranis series, which is called Pawns of the Prophet. David Eddings fans might recognize a little homage there in the title. But the second book is finished. Pawns of the Prophet is finished. The third book, Secrets of the Universe, is almost finished, given some tweaking for structure and plot. And the fourth book, The Tears of the Dragon, I think I have about 30 or 40,000 words of that. So I'm ahead of myself in that regard, and there's plenty of work ahead for editors to take on from here. But I can assure you that this isn't a series that is just going to be wrapped up conveniently or just to drop off with no thought and no work gone into it. So I hope you'll stay with me and stay with Temple Dark through this journey. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.